Today on Power Women of Queens, Luchia meets Sister Margaret Mccabe, chaplain at Rikers Island.
She abused him, she beat him, she burned him and stuff like that until finally school realized that something was happening, and he was finally put into foster care and then into group homes and stuff like that. And I'm looking at this fella and, where would I be if that happened to me?
QPTV presents Power Women of Queens, a series that highlights the everyday female decision maker, political leader, manager, and scientist as the norm, not the exception. The women featured are everyday women, mothers, wives, sisters, and co-workers whose actions have contributed to the Queens community. Sister Margaret Mccabe is a prison chaplain at the Robert N. Daverin Center of Rikers Island in New York for 30 years, working with adolescent inmates. Commissioner Joe Ponte presented Sister Mccabe with a plaque recognizing her service in a roll call plaque ceremony. Born to an Irish immigrant family, Sister Margaret was raised in Astoria, where she still lives. For 16 years, she was a teacher, principal for 7, and 30 years working in Rikers Island.
Hi, Sister Margaret. I want to thank you so much for joining me in this interview.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think you give a great example of that. Mm-hmm. Did you always knew your mission in life?
And I think part of what I am able to do at Rikers is because I was well loved myself. I deal with both adolescents and adults who haven't been that blessed, for want of a better phrase. And as you saw the one story about the kid who said, he needed a hug. Other stories of, I don't have anybody, I have you. The adults look upon me as somebody who cares about them, and if nobody else can do it, maybe I can. So I think this whole thing is in me has developed. As you read from my biography, I was a teacher, a principal, and finally doing what I do now. But in the 30 years I've been there, it's continued to be a development of me as well. I think I was always compassionate, but I think I've become more compassionate. I don't tell them what they've done is right. You poor thing. But I try to help them understand how they got into that situation and what are they going to do to make the future different, and to get them to reflect on their lives. With the adolescents, if I listened to my mother, I wouldn't be here. I'd be a wealthy lady. My congregation would be wealthy. So they need to begin to see. They think when they get to 16 and 17 that they know everything. And in actual fact, they know very little. And they need to really look into their choice of friends and the people they hang out with. And once they whiff that something is not right, they have to go into that. So I think it's been a development of me, and continues to develop. I continue to develop as I continue to be there. And I'm grateful to my community, which has allowed me to do this for all these years. I'm grateful to God for my good health. And I can't ask for much more than that.
It reminds me of a quote that we use in Bulgaria very often. Tell me who are your friends and I'll tell you who you are.
Exactly.
And my mom used to tell me that, and I was always upset with her, but now I think it's completely true.
You do understand it, and it's so funny when I'll say to them, if you listened to your mother, you wouldn't be here, am I right? And the head goes down, and it's sad, I think so many of the both adolescents as well as adults that are more sad than bad. In a sense, they get themselves caught up in a situation that they can't get out of. And despite what is said, that people are there from 2 days to 2 years, we have others that have been there for a longer time. So what they didn't know before, they now know.
So do you think self-love is in the core of what we do? Is that our driving force in our actions?
I think so. Because we want to take care of ourselves. We want to see what we can do to be the best person we can be. But some of that has to come from when they were little, that they were treated as carefully, that they were loved, that they can see that they're cared for. And if they're not, where do they go? Where do they don't have any foundation. One of the other things that really upsets me is when I talk to some of these adolescents who have never been into any church, mosque, synagogue, assembly, or whatever. So essentially have no moral compass, because no matter what your religious denomination is, there is a moral part to your religion. So we're dealing with, in some ways, a lost generation, because some of them will say to me, I want to be a Catholic, and I say, well, what church were you raised in? Well, I never went to church. So they have no concept of worship, no concept of prayer, and I find that frightening.
Yes. Well, you give so much love, compassion, empathy each day to the inmates. Do you feel sometimes that you get more than you give?
I feel that a lot. I do get more than I give oftentimes. The inmates respond to me. The officers, one of my former wardens said I've kissed more men than Madonna, and he's probably right. But I think with both, it's not just an all give. I sometimes walk home saying, gee, they were really good to me, and they look after me. The officers make sure that nothing happens to me.
Stay around for more Luchia and Sister Margaret after the break.
How are you able to stay non-judgmental?
I don't know if my situation were different, where I'd be today.
What is your why? Why do you do what you do?
I think I have a tremendous belief in God's providence in my life, and I really thought I'd be a teacher for the rest of my life, which is what my community did. And it was through the years that I began to realize that I did very well with boys who could be potentially troublesome. And they very soon learned that it was better to be on my side and not on my side. And so, I began thinking about that. Then somebody, at one point when we were deciding where we wanted to continue to minister to work, one of the sisters I lived with told me I should go to be principal in Spanish Harlem. And of course I gave her many reasons why I didn't want to go, but she had me thinking. And I ended up working as principal for 7 years in St. Francis de Sales. And through that time, I began to continue to learn about myself and learn about others, because I had, if you want to say, a more variety of people there. In the summertime, I did volunteer work at Prison Apostolate. So I got to know some of the people who did prison work. And then I was asked if I would help do counseling one-on-one with female inmates. And I did that. And one of the blessings of all of that was, one of the nights I was down there, there were 6 other sisters, and they said they were going to Dorothy Day's wake, the Catholic worker. And I went down to that, and that to me was another light saying, you're heading in the right direction. It's an experience I will never forget. So it's, I think we can't be stagnant. We have to try to live each day as best we can. I think the why is I think I'm still effective in dealing with the people that I deal with. They feel cared for. I can't change their lives. I can't prevent them from ever coming back, but I can be with them while they are. And one of the things I have in my office is a big calendar, and I use it to put people's names on it who go into court as my prayer list. And I've had inmates come back to me and say, stick their head in my door and say, Margaret, I'm going to court on Wednesday. Would you put your name on my prayer list? So it sticks with them. It's somebody that's caring for them on that particular day, And so it all works out, I guess.
How are you able to stay non-judgmental?
I don't know if my situation were different, where I'd be today. My parents, my father was an Irish immigrant, my mother's parents were Irish born, And we were probably, this much up from poor, but we were happy and we were cared for. And I know that, I never would have made it into trouble because my mother would have made sure that I was where I was. But as I say, I look at them and I wonder to myself if I had experienced the last of parenting or being abused, where I'd be today. I talked to one fellow a couple of weeks ago. He's an adult, he's over 50, and when he was 5 years old, his mother told him when she saw his head, she wanted to keep her legs closed. In other words, she didn't want him. What do you do, and so we talked, and she abused him, she beat him, she burned him and stuff like that, until finally school realized that something was happening, and he was finally put into foster care and then into group homes and stuff like that. And I'm looking at this fellow and where would I be if that happened to me? He's actually not for heavy duty crime, not that he hasn't committed a crime. But I mean, he's not a murderer or a rapist or anything like that. But I say, how can that be to have your own mother say that to you? It's beyond my comprehension that somebody could be that vicious.
I think that's why it's very important to separate the person from their behavior.
Yeah.
Because it's not the person that is bad, it's the behavior.
What I say to them, you're a good person who's made bad choices.
Right.
And as I say, none of us knows if our situations were different.
Now, do you feel disappointed or any guilt if an inmate returns to jail?
One of my phrases is, I didn't get them arrested, I can't get them out, and I'm not their mother. And I think that's kind of been my guiding force. If I, thought that they would all never be all good Catholics and never go back, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And yet they're interesting because I've had several that will come back, and I'll see them, and the head goes down. They know that even though Sister Margaret may not be too pleased seeing them back again, that they're still cared for, and that's all I can do for them. Is while they're with me, they're cared for, and I do what I can.
Coming up next.
How should one cultivate that self-compassion?
Well, first of all, I have to spend a lot of quiet time myself to reflect on my own life, to ask myself, have I done the best with that?
You worked for 30 years in Rikers Island. Do you still believe in the good of the world?
I have to. I don't know. When you hear all this violence, I don't understand what makes people hate. I guess that's, I don't fully understand it. They don't know me, they don't know us, and I think if I truly believe in the message of the gospel, if I truly believe in that and God created things and so it was good, that I have to hold on to that. And in a lot of ways, it's not as hard as you think it is, because you're looking at human beings, you're looking at people made in God's image and likeness, you're looking at guys that are struggling, and really, many of them remorseful. I don't think I've ever met somebody that wasn't sorry for what happened, or sorry that they had gone the wrong path, that some of them are beating themselves up better than I could ever even try to. So I still do. I think if I stopped believing that, I'd have to retire.
How should one cultivate that self-compassion and self-love when encountering challenges or tragic events that directly or indirectly happen to them?
Well, first of all, I have to spend a lot of quiet time myself to reflect on my own life, to ask myself, have I done the best with that? When I come home from work each day, I spend an hour or so of quiet, and then I go out for a walk if the weather's okay, and walk 1 to 2 miles. No cell phone, so nobody can get to me. And I need to try as I myself in that person's place. I think when tragedies happen to them, what's difficult is they don't have the normal opportunities. They can't take a walk around the block. They can't go have a cigarette. They can't go have a drink. You know, so that they're stuck. And to try to be as compassionate as you can. If they have a death or anything has happened to them, I make it a point to see them either every few days or at least once a week to know that they're still cared for. And they're very funny. I have a diary on my desk, and it's like that I'm that important that Sister Margaret puts my name in her book. And some of them say to me, "You're going to put my name in there for next week, aren't you?" So I think that's what they see. They see somebody who doesn't judge them. But I say, walk a mile in my shoes, the Indian proverb says. We don't know if our situations be different.
If you have to use one word to describe you, what would it be?
Caring.
Caring.
I think that's all I can do for them is care for them, care for the officers, and they're so funny sometimes. When they have a problem, that they feel free, they can say something to me. They also know that they can trust me. I don't, both inmates and staff. If an inmate tells me something that I feel has to be reported, I tell the inmate, I have to report this to somebody else, but I will not use your name. I think it was my second Christmas there. I worked New Year's Eve. I had 4 inmates come in who told me they thought of committing suicide. So, and it was the end of the year, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, then I said to him, well, I have to refer you to mental health. First of all, I don't want anything to happen to you, but I want you to know, and I will see you next week, And so, none of them did it, but I have to tell them that I have to do this.
Who is Sister Margaret when she's not working?
What I'm doing? Well, I do my walking. I'm a reader. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. I visit my sisters regularly. I have friends that I visit regularly.
I read in an article that you love espionage thrillers.
Oh,
Who's your
do.
favorite author?
Oh,
and book?
My latest one is Daniel Levin. In fact, it was my primary physician's nurse who told me about this Daniel Levin. It's all espionage, and I'm trying to think of, what I also like, who I also like is J.D. Robb, the pen name for Nora Roberts, and I like Nora Roberts as well. So I'm an addict as far as books are concerned. If I think I'm going to finish one the night before I go to the library, and actually I'm spoiled because it's right across the street. No, while I spend quiet time, an hour or 2 of quiet time every day, some quiet time in the morning before I come, I also work very hard. I don't bring it home with me. By spending some tired time, I use the analogy of a dishwasher, that I'm like a dishwasher. I let some of the things that have gone through my day get washed, and then I've done what I could, and finally, I think if I took everything, to do it, that I would have been burned out. And yes. I think that I can still feel for these people and not just think that, he's trying to get over, he's trying to, that I still belong there. I think the day I start to feel that way, which I hope doesn't happen, then I lose my ability to care for them, and that hasn't happened yet. And I hope it never does.
I hope so too, and thank you so much. It was such an honor to meet you.